La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.
You know what day it is? Inner Wealth Podcast. Meditate and give. So manifest the greater this. And things all good cause I say it is. Invest in your inner wealth. Real generational wealth is mental health. It's an inside game, no toxicity. Let's talk and more listening. Ladies and gentlemen, and now introducing David McCullar, founder of Inception, the first mental health gym.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Inner Wealth Podcast. I got a special guest in the building. Got my homie, my girl, Karissma. What up, though?
What up?
Yo, listen. From afar, I always respected you. I always had some of the best conversations, I feel like, with you. Just from being entrepreneurs, being black entrepreneurs, being entrepreneurs that's doing stuff that's not being done. Like you have you own a jewelry manufacturing facility.
Yeah.
You
Platform. Let me.
And well, I'm just saying. Let me. So you got a manufacturing facility, which first of all, somebody put me onto you. A friend put me onto you. It's like she owns this jewelry facility, and you were making this custom jewelry that I've never seen before. And then it was like, wow, she got her own manufacturing facility, and you're doing way more. And I'm gonna let you explain all of that too. But again, it goes back down to I all respected your hustle and respected your ability, and just when I have conversations with you, you start, you can do X, Y, and Z, and when you ask those questions, I'm like, yeah, I know, and I know we on the same mental level because it's like, yeah, I got that all written down,
Absolutely.
So yeah, tell us more what you do. You want to dive deep into the
Let's do it. Yeah.
the manufacturing and everything else. Let's talk about it.
All of it. Yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of Gildform. Gildform is the only all-in-one print-on-demand jewelry design and manufacturing platform. So we help businesses create jewelry from concept to creation, and we start with something as simple as a paper napkin sketch. We have developed the technology, all proprietary technology, to facilitate that process of going from vision to design to execution. And then I also own Detroit's only full-service jewelry manufacturing facility where we do all of the jewelry production leveraging 3D technology and automation.
Yeah, see all that right there. I'm like, why more people should know who you are. More people should understand what you built. Just the technology I saw over the summer with the what do you want to call it? It's almost like I've seen this type of technology for people who want to make clothes, like T-shirt printing, and that's kind of basic, But when you talk about jewelry, and I saw that thing, I'm like, this is awesome. This is dope. And you're like the only one who has this, right?
The only one in the world. Like, to be a black woman that has never, that is doing something that has never been done before is crazy, right? But it all started from, my background as a jewelry designer. I built this global jewelry company, this e-commerce and direct-to-consumer company in my basement in Detroit in the hood.
Wow.
Right? And I was teaching, I started very young, but I was teaching myself how to make jewelry, but not just and not to say that this is the way, an inferior way, right? But I'm teaching myself how to work with precious metals and pouring molten metal into molds and feeling like a real life alchemist in this basement, making these jewelry products. And one thing led to another, and it took me all the way from, Detroit all the way to Paris. To Fashion Week and showcasing collections consecutively each fashion week. And then from there, the jewelry being sold in 15 different countries in places that I've never been, who, my customers would speak languages that I don't even, never even heard of.
Right.
And so at that time when I started, I was like, struggling through that process, but also recognizing the amazing accomplishment of, turning my dream into a reality of starting a jewelry brand. And then furthermore, being able to express myself, like having this brand as a means of self-expression and then being able to generate revenue from that. I was like, wow, okay, like I'm doing exactly what I've always wanted to do. And then I was like, okay, well, I hit, like doing it, I'm realizing I'm doing everything myself. And so that's a lot,
Right.
that is a lot, especially when you're doing production. Like to give you an example, let's say Fashion Week is in January. I'm making the designing, right? I'm in the creative mode and I'm designing the products and then I'm producing them, right? So then after I produce them, I take my initial collection, Paris Fashion Week, and it's in my showroom. Buyers come in and they buy the collections. And then they say, I want 100 of that. I want, 200 of this. I want 400 of that. And I take these orders back and I have to come back to this basement in Detroit and make it all myself.
Right.
And then I, at the same time, am like, navigating, customer service because I have a full, fully fledged e-commerce situation, direct to consumer, and I'm getting sales from that. So I have to fulfill those orders. And I was like, wow, like this is great. Like they call these champagne problems. Like I have people that want my product. Now my problem is like, how do I create that product? How do I develop it? And then when I went, it sounds very simple. It's like get a manufacturer. Right. And so when I did that, or like when I started to go through that process, I talked to every manufacturer in the US and I was like, I am going to fail with them, but I'm also going to fail without them. Right. And so, and it was really because, and we can dig into that, like the traditional jewelry manufacturing industry is really dated. Jewelry is the oldest thing known to humanity. Like we've been adorning ourselves since the beginning of our time. And so the industry is so old and it's hard to navigate. It's expensive, lead time, supply chain. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that's not sustainable for me. I'm not going to hit my, like where I want to be in terms of, my goals for my company. And so what I wanted didn't exist. And so I took a moment, took pause, and then I built it.
So how is being underfunded? Because that's typically, we have these bright minds and these great skill sets and great product, but then we're underfunded and we can't do what we need to do. So how has that helped you though in the personal journey to be more resourceful?
Yeah, so I think like the first thing that comes to mind is that within every obstacle is an opportunity to learn and grow, like to shut it down. Okay. And I think that's one thing about Black founders and Black women founders in particular, such as myself, is that resiliency.
Right.
So, I mean, I did what I needed to do in order to make it happen. And so when I started, I actually was like, trying to fundraise and, navigating that process. And I was like, wow, okay, that's one way to go about it. And then I happened upon another way, which is non-dilutive capital and starting with grants. So I first got like my little bit of seed money for launching a manufacturing facility from a grant. Like that was the first thing. And so it's non-traditional, right? So typically when you're thinking about starting a business, you might want to go to a bank, get a bank loan, maybe a line of credit, maybe hit up some angel investors. And if you're well connected or well networked, maybe you'll go the venture capital route. I didn't know about that. And when I first started, I started really young. And so I'm still like navigating the process, and it just made sense for what I was doing to to explore the venture, to explore the non-dilutive capital route and get a grant. So I got city grants, the grants from the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, the New Economy Initiative, and I think that like that was a great starting point. And, you know, still to this day, having those relationships within the city, within the state and federal level.
Well, how has it been with one? You said you grew up in the hood, right?
Yeah.
So how do you know? A lot of times when we hear things of that nature, we think that, well, I'm from the hood, so there should be a lower expectation from me. But you never had that expectation that you should be lower than or less than. You know, so what was it that helped you shape your mind early on to even see life the way that you saw it at that time, to be doing alchemy in your basement? Like, what are the things that inspired you?
That's such a great question. So it was like the way that I was brought up. Like, yeah, we were in the hood, but you know, I saw my mom, who was so much about like having a sacred space. Like our home was our refuge. Our home was our sacred space. It was our temple. It was everything. And she really shaped that for us. And so she, as an entrepreneur herself, she was like, well, I want to build this sacred space. I don't have the finances. I'm one of 5, right? So she's like, I got 5 kids, and you know, I'm trying to do what I love, and you know, generate revenue from that. So it was hard, right? And I saw her like figuring it out. Like I saw her, like for example, building the life that she wanted to live in. Not just for us, but I think for her too. And so an example of that is she was like, I have a standard aesthetically, like I want to feel good in my house and I want it to look good. So she would cut tile. She's like, I need to get a new kitchen floor. Like I want my kitchen to look nice and to be representative of like how I feel on the inside, like my queendom. Right? So my floors, they're not looking right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo them. And I'm going to buy the tile. I'm going to cut the tile. I'm going to lay the tile. I'm going to grout the tile. And I'm going to have my kids sit here, watch me, help me pass the grout, you know, wash it down. And, you know, that was a family project. So we may have lived in a community that's filled with blight. And it being like maybe even in a dilapidated house, at, you know, certain areas in the house that didn't work, right? There was times in our house where we didn't have like a functioning bathroom, right? And we watched my mom like put it together. She's like, I'm gonna figure out plumbing, and she did it. She put it like she could to this day put in a toilet, a whole shower, and you know, all of that. And so seeing that was for me, I took that and I transformed that into an understanding that you can actually build the life that you want to live. Like you can build your queendom
regardless of where you start off at.
No matter where you're at.
I think that always is the thing is thinking that we're just going to magically be where we want to be from start.
Yeah.
But it's a growing process. And one thing that you mentioned that I've saw with my own parents is just what you just talked about was a can-do spirit. There's nothing more than that. I'm going to make wherever I go be my place and my place of peace and do the best I can with what I have. And I think, how you think social media is changing that with newer generations? You think they are more anxious about getting to this end goal, or do you think that they have unrealistic expectations? How have you been navigating the different viewpoints of these generations that's a little lower behind us now?
That's a great question. I don't know exactly. Like I'm deep in the route in the work. Like I am deep in the weeds of like building legacy. And so I can only speak to how social media impacts me, and I use it as a tool. Right? So and I could be better at it, right? Like I'm just like, for me, I am looking at ways where, okay, here's this thing that exists. How can I use it as a tool to better what it is that I'm doing to better myself? And so I actually curate my social media experience. So I follow people that inspire me. I follow people that that are smarter than me, that I can learn from. And I follow people that are in this community that I am working to build every day. So I think my social media experience is different. And going back to what I said previously about building the world that you want to live in, I think that extends to the social media world as well, right? So
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I say that every time, on the podcast about being able to watch what you're taking in, because that becomes a part of you. You do take that energy in. I mean, if you watch a movie and you have these reactions where you're jumping or you're flinching or you're clenching, it's like, what's happening? You're responding to what you're watching. So anytime we scroll, we're just responding to what we see. So my YouTube, I sit for probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours a day just looking at some of the most smartest stuff out there. I'm like, I want to be, because before you had to say, well, I need to be around smart people. But where are the smart people to be around? You don't even have to worry about that today because you can easily get on the internet and there's somebody teaching you about something, that's way smarter than you. And you just want to be around them to pick up that information, and then you want to see them put it in action too. Yeah. So I think that's very important for people to hear. But when people come, I know you're deep in the work and I'm deep in the work too, but you still get people who come around you and they think that you got to where you got to and it was just like an easy experience. So what are the challenges? Let's talk about some of both of our entrepreneurial journey challenges. So what's one of the hardest things you've had to overcome?
Let's talk about recently. Let's talk about like right now, right here, right now.
Okay.
What I'm working on right now is, okay, so actually when I first started, there's also like, I mean, when you come from where I come from, there is this narrative, right, that I experienced, which is like, okay, well, I think a lot of people will connect it to like the crabs in the barrel mentality where it's like, oh, you're trying to get up here, but I don't want you to go up there. Like, I'm going to pull you down or I want you to like pull me up. And then by like, hanging on to your coattail, I'm going to like inevitably like pull you down. But so there's like that mentality. And then there's also
crabs in a bucket, barrels, what you're talking about. Let me try to pull myself up. And so can we expound on that too? Because I experienced that, but kind of in a different way. I think it's almost like sometimes where, specifically if you're doing something very monumental and big, and I think that what you're doing is that as well. So what comes with that is value. Like, oh, wow, look at that. Like, I can see the value in what you're doing all day. And I'm just like, there's no reason your company is not $1 billion company. I think it is, and other people can see that too. So what happens is they want you to be their savior.
Yeah. Or they want you to be their ticket. Right, like
still the savior,
right? Yeah. So it's like
you're my meal ticket.
Here is a gold mine, like literally, like here is a gold mine here, and I think it's really for me. I'm learning discernment and being patient with myself, but I think just being discerning of the people that you keep around, like that's all you can do. I noticed that in the past I would allow people into my space because I see the God in them, because the God is there, in all of us.
Yeah.
Like that, like we are amazing, incredible creatures. And I would say majority of us don't know that. They're not living in that. They're not practicing that. They're not remembering it. And so I'm like, okay, like there's so much opportunity and I see it in you, but they don't see it in themselves. And so we could all get it together, right? And I'm all for that. Like, because if I win, you win, right?
Yeah,
if you are showing up as your best self every day, just as I show up as my best self every day, we are going to win,
right?
Like that. There is no doubt about it. But there are people that, and I think that's what you're getting at. Like there are people that don't necessarily see their light, because if they did, they wouldn't need the ticket from you, right? They wouldn't need you to be that gold mine, because they would realize that they are their own gold mine.
Right.
They just have to go within. They need to find their inner wealth.
They do.
And that's something that people don't see. But I think in the past, when I was just starting my business and looking towards scale, it was like, okay, like I can see that person's potential. And I am looking right now, like this next phase for me is not necessarily about like 100% like, oh, here's the potential. It's like, well, what are you doing today?
I swear, I've been having this conversation. I said, I'm so done with potential and me having to shape and mold and mentor potential. That's cool. I've done it. But I have value here. I'm expecting you to come and just bring value.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do the,
but here's the thing.
here's the potential.
You can have potential too and still add value.
Yeah, for sure.
I have the potential of being a billionaire. Right? I'm not a billionaire yet, but I'm doing those things today.
Right.
Adding the value today to realize that potential. And I think that there is nothing wrong with having like yes, that's awesome. To be able to up level and level up on your own, right?
Right.
And for yourself.
Right.
But it's like, I think the biggest thing is like, what are you doing today? It can be a small thing. It could be a big thing. What are you doing today to realize that potential? And I think that some people may not be, they're not really like mindful of that, right? Or intentional about it. And so I think that for me, I'm looking toward like surrounding myself with people that are doing the work today. And it could be work on themselves, work in their community, externally, but there needs to be something that they're doing, right? And I think because that also inspires what we're doing together.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and that, like I was saying about the value is just not being a completed product, but I'm talking very specific when we're talking about people you're hiring to do things. It's just like, I'm bringing you on to do this, so this is what I'm looking for. And you find what my experience has always been emotional things that come into play, and you find this with every business, because people who have unresolved traumas and stressors in their life, they go to work just like everybody else, right? So who are they working for?
Right.
Corporations and companies, right? So when you bring that into these types of energies together, and oftentimes the corporation or the business, small business, can't really function in the way they want to function just because all of everybody's baggage is blocking them. That's why a lot of employers are going to move away from human resources and go to artificial resources. It's already happening. I mean, you just did it.
Yeah. I mean,
I just did it in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing anything maliciously. It's just like, how can I get this done the most efficient and effective way?
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah. And then there's also like, I mean, even as a founder and as a CEO, like I'm very intentional about my inner state, my inner being. And I put in the work, when I first started my business, I shaped my hours around therapy, like me going to therapy, like traditional talk therapy. And I think that's important. And like whatever works for you, but finding your thing that will allow you to get toward that, or work toward building your inner self and your inner wealth, right? And I think that starts from within, especially when you're building something that is like when you're building legacy or building a company, like you want to make sure that you are not pouring from an empty cup.
Absolutely.
And so I started off very mindful of how I show up. And I think starting with myself is literally the most important thing. And then my hope is that when I do that, that my employees, my team will see that.
Yeah.
And then they do. And then they're like, okay, this is what I need, right? And so it is that expectation, right? It is just a given that everybody's showing up as their best selves because they understand the importance of not pouring from an empty cup.
You can't give what you don't have,
Right.
first of all. And that's why for years, I mean, I'm so glad that for my business, my business is surrounding that, right? So I'm like, I'm the number one client. You remember those
Right,
commercials back in
right.
the day? It was like, what was it? Hair club for men or something like that? Like, I'm not just a spokesperson, I'm the client too, or
Yeah,
something. And that's how it is. Like, I spent years, and I still do, doing my own stuff. And I found that in order for my business to grow, so this is what we're talking about. So let's go deeper into that. In order for our business to grow, that we have to change. We have to grow. We have to evolve. We have to take on the challenges. For instance, okay, you're a small business and you want to grow, and I'll tell people, go raise money. How do I do that? And so it's not just about the information. Go raise money. Yeah, that's easy, right? Go raise money. Go do crowdfunding. Go talk to a VC. Find a VC. But the belief surrounding all of that may stop all that from happening. Don't matter that the information is free now. We can easily. Who wants to be a millionaire? There's thousands of books about it, but you can go read about it. But going into action and going on the journey and fighting the things, not really fighting, but having the certain stimulus come up, and now let's see how you're gonna respond.
Yeah.
Like Neo, like this, right? Okay, you just came out of the Matrix. Great. We give you all this information. They poured it all to his brain, and Morpheus like, okay, show me now that you got this skill set. Goes in, gets beat up, right? It's the difference between knowing and walking, and we learn that from actually walking and doing the work, not just I got the information. Just stuck in that informational stage with all these podcasts and books and memes all out. It's like, you do know at some point you got to stop with the information.
Yeah, there's
and
a
just
lot of
straight
noise.
Practice.
Yeah.
Put into work. And I know what you say. Like, I heard you, and this is what you said. David, I've been in the lab. I don't hear all this stuff because I'm immersed in my world.
Yeah.
See, I hear a little bit more because I'm more engaged on the social end. You see that a lot. But then I get burnt out from that. Like, I just want to be in the work, Karissma. I just want to do the work. But at the same time, that front is important to shine your light.
I love that you said that because that's something that I'm working on.
Shining your light?
Yes.
Because
and
you got a big light to shine.
Let me tell you why, though. Okay. Let me tell you. So starting, can I cuss? There's
Do
this,
whatever you want.
there's this bitch, who do you think you are narrative, right? Like, coming from where I come from is like, oh, you want to build a tech company? Bitch, who do you think you are? You want to build a manufacturing company? Like, and it's not just coming from, it comes from everywhere, especially as a Black woman doing what has never been done before. I was working through that narrative that, and so that was an external thing. Like, literally people would tell me, like, bitch, who do you think you are? Like, and it would even be like people that I would have around me when I first started. Like, I'm like, these my friends. And you're like, I'm like, I want to do this, and it's going to be this way. And they'd be like, bitch, who do you think you is? Like, and make a joke about it. And, and that would just kind of like, I don't know, like I would ignore it but what happened is that seeded in my subconscious. And so I actually, when I was, just starting out, like, had to work through that because it would come back up. It'd be like, in my mind, I would actually say to myself, well, bitch, who do you think you are? Because I had it coming toward me from all of these external sources, even from media, even from like the statistics of the number of Black women that don't get venture capital or being an underfunded business. Like, the media, the world tells you, it's right in your face, bitch, who do you think you are? Right? And so that's me. I'm unwinding all of that, deconditioning that entire narrative that I worked through. And so that's when it was like, okay, well, I'm in the lab, right? And I'm just going to do the work. And I'm going to show you who I think I am. right? And I'm gonna show you who I know I am, like who I know that I am. Like, I think that is very, very important. But for me, my process was, and I think everybody's process is important, and I think it's important for everyone to find their own, to find what works for them. And so for me, I'm like, I am that alchemist in the basement. I'm about to go, like, and I'm going to make some magic. I'm going to turn lead into gold.
Right.
And I'm going to show you how I did it. Like, I'm going to show you who I am. And I think that's just a part of the process. That was a part of my process. And so now that I'm in the, like, I think beyond, like, turning lead into gold, now I can shine the light, right? Now I can share that. But there's also those fears of, like, how like flies and mosquitoes are, like, attracted to light.
Yeah.
Right? I think that there's also, like, dark forces or, like, dark energy that is also attracted to light. And so that's kind of scary. Like, when, as a light being, it's like, oh, okay, well, like, if I shine my light, like, who's going to try to, like, come for me? Who's going to, because now that I'm visible, who going to come for me?
Yeah.
And when I learned throughout that, like, this is all, like, mental work. This is me journaling. This is how I got to all of this. Is I'm journaling, I'm going to therapy, I'm talking, like, to myself, talking to people, like, and having these conversations and just living, doing the work. But what I realized is that, yeah, darkness is there, but you know what happens is that when you shine brighter, you actually like it, you bring out, like, you shine that light so that there is no more darkness. Like, that's how you bring light to a dark and empty room. You just turn on that switch.
Right.
Right. And so I think, like, and even if you just have, like, a lamp in a dark room, just the area that's surrounding that lamp, right, that's enough. But you know what you can do? You can turn it up and bring up the brightness in the entire room. And so that's what I've been focusing on, is, like, looking at how I can turn up my brightness and shine that light in the entire room.
You turning it up today on Inner Wealth. That's why you're here, right?
That's
So
why
is this the launch of the turn up of
the
light?
This the turn up. No, but for real, I think that's something that I've been doing other things as well, but I think that's what's important, and being intentional about that. So that was the thing that I said to myself, is, like, I'm going to shine my light more. And I think not just for, like, just me, but
no, it's
because,
not for you. It's for
others,
right?
They say you can't be what you can't see. And so
say that again.
You cannot be what you cannot see. Like, so and it's not just, like, me, like, going to social media and seeing, right? Or in the media in general, just seeing. It's like, can you close your eyes and can you see yourself being exactly the person? And sometimes people that may not have that imagination, or if they're just so overburdened with that "bitch, who do you think you are" narrative, where it can't even, like, fathom, right? But for me, it's like, if there is a way for me to to share experience, to share all of that's light. Right. And so I realize that it's not just for me, but I do a disservice to my purpose by not sharing what I've learned and the experience as a whole.
Disservice to my purpose, and just being who you are. You know, just being a representative and a figure. People see you, and that's a big inspiration to see, again, the things that you've been doing and the things where you come from. Even if you didn't come from that place, it's still inspiring, you know?
Yeah.
It's still inspiring what you're doing and what you've created for yourself, and having that vision and, overcoming those voices. We all have them. We all have those voices. We all have that energy. And it's always a test. And let me read this, because I read this for my mom. I sent this to my mom, and it was something I posted about 10 years ago. And it it spoke to me. And, look, I'm saying the same thing it said to me 10 years ago. I posted, "This speaks volumes to me." It's Greg Braden's work. I don't know if you know who Greg Braden is. But he says, "No one is immune to the cycles of balance and change. Regardless of how large our families are, how many friends we have, how many books we've written, or how successful we've become, we all have a trigger point that invites change into our lives. Interestingly, the trigger appears to be different for everyone. While we may believe we have a neatly arranged life as something that we can regulate and control, all the while each experience and every relationship is training and preparing us for something that may be beyond our control. In doing so, we move ever closer to the moment when we'll be given the opportunity to demonstrate our mastery over our betrayals, violated trust, and hot button issues. It's only after we've put out our last spiritual tool in place to create the balance, however, that we signal our readiness. It is our balance that says, hey, I'm ready. Bring it on. Now we're ready to demonstrate to the universe what we've learned. So it's back to that Neo thing.
Yeah.
Morpheus invite him.
Yeah.
You said you got some information. You think you're good at something. Now here's this opportunity to demonstrate. So okay, you've been watching some videos and now here's your opportunity to demonstrate. So I'm gonna go in the basement and burn some shit up. Probably don't know what I'm really doing.
Yep.
But it's all right. Because I have to do this.
Yeah.
I have to fail. And no, that doesn't work. Don't do that. Check that off, right? And that's the biggest thing, it seems like, when I talk with entrepreneurs. It's like everybody's afraid of failing. But the failing creates the opportunity.
Yeah.
And gives you now, because I guarantee you ain't making the same moves that you made. How long you been in business now?
Over a decade. Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah. 10 years.
Yeah, so think.
Yeah.
You ain't the same Karissma.
Oh, no.
I'm not the same David. Like, the discernment is up now.
Yeah.
I know how to spot certain things. And I had to allow these situations to pop up to give me an opportunity to say, learn, and then the next opportunity come again and say, here's choice. It's like a video game. It's A or B. It's A or B.
You know, like the video game part, like you know how when you plan, I used to be a gamer back, like when I was young.
Let's
like,
talk about games. What games are you playing?
But like when, like you know how when you're playing a video game and you learn something in one level, you know what happens on the next level? You have to use that same thing that you learned, that skill set, and so it's the same thing. Like after each level, it's you are learning the thing that, or you are winning that that level with the thing that you learned previously. And so what happens in the very end of the game is that is all of these skills and all of these tricks. You gotta pull it all out, right? You gotta pull it all out just to beat that, like that big monster, that big, you know,
and
that,
you
that
know
thing.
all your tools.
You know everything. And so that's really like what this shit really is. It's like, you know, like you are learning each level, you are learning something new, and then you're gonna take that information on to the next level, and then that, like you don't need to learn it. So it's just like muscle memory at that point. But at the same time, at this new level, you're gonna learn something new.
Right.
And then so now you have a toolkit of all the things and all of the experiences that you went through, but also the lessons. And I think it's hard for entrepreneurs to really like capture that because all we see is highlight reels. It's like, oh, here's this deal or here's this thing. And you don't really see. And even to myself, I'm definitely guilty of highlight reels. Like,
well,
it
creates the dopamine for
right
people.
Like here's the update, like, and you know, like I've been in a lab and here's all the other fucked up shit, like
right
that occurred to get here, like,
right
like, but the reality of it is it's just understanding like that everything that you see has a world of experiences. You just see the bloomage, right? You don't see the roots that's beneath the soil, and you know, and that's a lot. You know, that's very. I mean, like that's something that we don't really see, so you're not really thinking about it. But I understand. Like when I see somebody, like one of my friends posts, like here's this like amazing thing, like you know, maybe quote unquote their highlight reel. I understand. Like damn, like. They put in the work to get there. Like, like that's a lot. Like, because
you know. So you know when you sit down with them, like, let's talk about the real stuff, right? Like, let's talk about the struggles that really built you, like, and how it built you, and what you learned. Like, that's the conversations you really want to have with people, like, not just all the highlight stuff, because that doesn't do anything for you, you know. For instance, in terms of like when you start seeing people like that get pretty big and popular, and they start doing things like, say, 50 Cent or somebody else. Oh, I filed for bankruptcy. Why did you file for bankruptcy? Oh, he's broke. Like, no, you're not a part of the game. You haven't been part of the game long enough. You don't understand. That's an opportunity to protect yourself. Bankruptcy. People don't know that because they never been there. They never done that. But from the outside, it looks like you're losing. It's like, as long as you still going, you're never losing. You know, I'm 15 years.
Yeah.
I've had trials, tribulations. As long as I'm still alive and in the game, I'm still alive and in the game to keep going to fight the boss.
Yeah. I think that's important. It's just that resiliency. Like, how do you keep moving forward?
Yeah.
Like, by any means necessary. And moving forward could be like letting some things, some people like go. like that is a part of moving forward. So that's my mental is like, okay, how do I move forward? But also understanding that like sometimes moving forward requires rest in a place or a period of just like, okay, let me like process, let me organize, because when I come out of this,
right,
like it's gonna be no games to play. Okay, like that's what, and that's how I do things. Like when like maybe I experience something, a challenge in the business or whatever it is, it's like, okay, depending on how it hits, like I might just be like, okay, let me take a moment, let me meditate on it, let me pray about it. And because understand, I'm going to keep moving. But it's important to keep moving within a state of balance. And that's where, you know, from that quote, is like, once you find that balance, you are not one to play with.
Let me ask you, and how you, because this is how I see things, and I see it very spiritually, but again, it's a part of the game, right? Because in a game, the algorithms are set up very specifically, you know. I found that not resisting what's happening to me and just allowing it to be what it is and choosing the least path of resistance to it allows everything to come and flow much smoother than being highly engaged into it and adversarial to it.
I'm learning that.
You're learning that?
I'm learning that. I am for real, like Aries energy, fire sign. So I'm like, I need like how can I control? How do I take control of the situation? And it's like universe, like Gnosis, like it, like this is what it is. And I think that's something that I think you naturally want to try to control it. And I love the path of least resistance. Like, I say that. Even, like, my friends will be like, I have this one friend that would be like, Karissma, path of least resistance. And I'm like, okay. Like, little reminders, because I am definitely, like, you know, high energy. And when it comes to the business is, like, you know, high performing. And, like, that's just how I am. And just understanding that there's that balance.
Yeah, I learned it from being burned. So is that what you're learning from taking the path that's not the least resistant?
I think it's just like I have been learning it for a while. Like it's something like through being like through my journey of spirituality and like mindfulness is like just understanding like that, like don't everything is going to happen the way that it's going to happen, but also if you trust that everything is going to happen for you, not to you, then that's it. And I actually learned that from experience, where I have so many receipts of how the universe has like had my back. Like, and so when I feel a moment of like doubt, or if I'm trying to resist a challenging thing or whatever, like I just pull out my mental receipts and be like, oh, this is, you remember when, like, you know, here are all these things and examples of when the universe, when God, when my higher self, like when I had everything figured out was, just like by not knowing what was next, like
that's when the mystery comes, because when you think you know what's next, you collapse all other possibilities. You can know what your outcome is, your main vision outcome, but how you get there, it's not up to you.
Yeah,
you know, that's not up to you to how you're gonna get there, and that's always one of those. That's a law of attraction principle.
Yeah.
But oftentimes people get stuck with the law of detachment. Detaching and know that you're still going to be able to get what you want. So, okay, you went after a house and you couldn't get that house. Oh, we thought we were going to close on it. It fell through. It's something better.
It's something better.
It's something that better doesn't mean that it's going to look exactly the way that you want it to look. But exactly what you need. And then once you're in it, once you move past it and you're in this new thing that came about, you're like, I'm so glad we didn't get that house.
That's it. That is it. That's it for me. Where I realized where it's like, oh no, like I thought I had it figured out. Like, no, I didn't. Like here is something that I couldn't even have imagined. I didn't even know what was on the horizon. Like, and I think that's the beautiful thing of leaning into that path of least resistance.
So all these things, again, the law of attraction, law of detachment, law of least resistance. I think these are all just algorithms in the game. However we want to look at it, whether we're in a simulation or not, that's a whole nother story. We could be in a simulation. But I'll tell you one thing, it acts very much like a simulation, the laws of the universe, and it don't matter who you are. Don't matter how morally bad or good you are. They work if you put them into practice, right? If you understand that. So those are a few of them that I've learned on this journey is just, because again, you can tell me this. A lot of times when we, as business owners, we get stuck with destination mentality and we think that's going to save us and make us feel better. Because I have a lot of success that comes in forms of you see things like, oh, you're on CNN and that means things to a lot more people. And you can get that little dopamine hit and rush, and then you'll come down and you say, well, what's next? Like you're constantly looking after it. I'm just like, I'm happy now. I'm happy before somebody puts in $35 million into my business.
So how did you get there? How did you get to that place of being?
By understanding that it's been a trap that they've been promoting. As a kid, I didn't know anything outside of my 2-mile radius. I didn't know anything. I was happy with riding my bike around the block, going to see a friend, sitting on the porch, going in the backyard to play basketball. Like a lot of my good memories in my life is when I had very little knowledge and very little money because you're a kid. But I had, you know what I had? I had access to all of my internal resources. But as you get older and those traumas happen, take away from the resources. So now you don't have the resources. You're starting to divert those resources to threats that may be in front of you or no longer in front of you, but your brain and your body is still processing them, is using your resources. So the more you keep having them, betrayals are a huge thing, right? Because it's specifically when you feel like you're in a safe place and you're relaxed and you find out what's going on with my back. Somebody stabs you. That's a very traumatizing thing, right?
And then you take that to other situations.
You take that to other situations, to relationships, to jobs, on and on and on. So as a kid, if you look at the Bible, it always talks about, do children no harm because they're in their right mind. They're in their true self and they have all their resources unless they've been traumatized before they even came out the womb. That's a whole nother story. But and their environment is not right, but they're already attached to the joy. Look at them walk around and just find fulfillment in like a paperclip or something. So no, it can't be, well, when my business blows up, then I'll feel better. No, I'm being played. Because I'm going to wait to feel better until something external happens. That sounds horrible. That's not what I'm doing. So I had to learn that, and I already had an example of it because I had a great childhood. Doesn't mean that trauma wasn't there. Doesn't mean that I didn't have a black experience as a black man in Detroit. We saw what was all going around us, but I had a mother and a father who made a home that was a sacred place, was a peaceful place. So I always been able to regulate back down into myself. So my journey and just in my own health and wellness, I had to reestablish that and get back to that and understand it's not the stuff. So cool. I'll do my business, but I don't see it the way that other people see my business or see everything that's happening either. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I appreciate it, but I'm happy anyway.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think that's important. Like, and I think that's when, like, going back to doing a disservice to your purpose is like not enjoying it while you are doing it, like having fun with it, like really. And that's the thing that I even like just bringing joy to to work, right? Like, and having just having fun with it too. Like there's a lot of pressure, like
Yeah.
with running. You have a lot of responsibilities, and I don't trust and believe I don't play. Right, when it comes to me being about my business, and but I enjoy what I do, so naturally I have fun with it.
Yeah. Well, what's some of the ways that you do have fun?
You know, like
Just not even in your business, just in your own life, if you can share. What are some things that you enjoy?
I mean, so I like to. I mean, I like to just like do what feels good in that moment, and then like honor that. So, I mean, and it's so stupid. I'm just such like a silly, like fun loving person when it comes to just like being like, so I just had like a dance party with my nieces, and that's what, you know what, that's what Auntie's going to come over and do. We're going to have a dance party and we're going to have fun with it. Like, or if it's just like a matter of, like I really enjoy learning new things, and so I love to read. I have fun with it. Like I'm like my mind, like I turn into this like child when I learn something new. I'm like, oh, how can I apply this? And it's really exciting for me in that instance. But I think for me, it's like I feel happiest and most joy filled when I am honoring what it is that I need in that moment.
That's powerful. Because and then it's not just a thing you go to. It's just, what do I need right now?
Yeah,
What do I want to do?
Like I have a hard time when people are like, well, what are your hobbies? And I'm like, I don't have it. like I like to read, like that. But that doesn't feel like, you know, a hobby. It just feels like that's what I like to do. Like that's just what I do. And I really enjoy my work. And so, and that can be like, you're just like, okay, sometimes you need to like step back and just like go to sleep, like, or like just chill off that.
I love taking naps.
I work, you know, like,
I honor that in myself. I'm going to take a nap.
Sometimes you just need to chill, like, or at least I have a hard time with like stopping because I enjoy it. I'm deep into it and I get excitement and fulfillment from it. But I think that there is just like, for me, it's just important to honor what is needed in that moment. And that's how I know that I'm like on my path. If I'm like, and it could be something simple like, okay, take a nice bath, like have some incense going and like, you know, maybe a podcast or some music in the background. Like, or it can literally be dancing like a fool. Because I can't dance, and but I'm gonna, have fun with it, and really just like I think just enjoy this beautiful like life experience that we have. But you got to see the beauty in it, right?
Yeah.
And so
because you can easily get caught into the trap of capitalism, in terms of just like having to always be productive.
You know, it's sometimes like life, like adulting, like just America, like it just feels so ghetto. Like
no,
like it's just so like I'm like, man, it's ghetto here, like on Earth. Sometimes like
no,
it's just like this is ghetto. But enjoying what like just I don't know, finding that's really I think a strength of mine. Like if I were to be asked, like, what is one of the gifts that God gave you that's extremely unique, is my ability to find beauty. Like, and that's something that I think has really led toward my resilient mindset, which is like, okay, well, what is the light? What is the beauty? Where is the opportunity in the situation? I can always find it. It might take me a minute to get there, but understand that I always find it.
Yeah, those are great positive traits to have. Now, again, back to that mindset development. You got can-do spirit from your mom, and it seems like you took that and shaped it to your own, self. What are some of the other things that you've done, like, books you've read, or people you like to follow, or inspirational things?
That's a great question. We gonna have to leave it in the show notes because I literally read so much. It's kind of like
But
when I
there's
have
something.
time. Okay, so
There's something that sparked you in your life that you saw that was like, wow. There has to be something. I mean, there's always little steps too, but there's something or someone that you saw that you like, I like that person. Or
well, I'm thinking there's so much. Like, there's so much when it comes to, like, let's say, like Dr. Joe Dispenza. Like,
Okay.
Really, like, understanding, like, how the mind and the body works, and from the quantum physics perspective. But then there's also, like, I think his name's Ryan, the book, Finding the Obstacle in the Way, or something like that. Something like that. The obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way.
Is the way. And that's something, like, I read that book, like, way too many times. I have it on an audiobook, and I'll just pull it up. Like, that's something that, like, that's a really great book on finding the opportunity and obstacles, because that's the thing. Like, people will take, like, people think that the path of least resistance is like, I'm not going to go take this route that I know will be filled with obstacles. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's about going, like, walking toward that and understanding and being calm, right? Being at peace and at balance when going through those obstacles. Because the obstacle is literally the way. Like, you learn and you grow so much when you go through those things.
Yeah.
And so I love that one. That one's something that really, really, like, sparked me more recently. Like, in the beginning of the pandemic, I read that book and I was like, oh, all right, let's get it. And then,
well, it's back down to that video game thing,
Yep.
right? Like, you can't go to the next level until you go fight
yeah,
or deal with the thing that takes to get to the next level. Back to that thing. Okay, so at the point where I had never raised money before in my business in the physical location, I'm like, I need to do something. I need to dream bigger. I'm thinking too small. And I got that from a friend of mine. He said, man, you got venture capitalists want 30 times return. You raising 500,000 is nothing. You need something that's gonna scale like this. And I was like, and it challenged me. I was like, well, what can I do? Like, and then I really start thinking about it. I'm like, I'm gonna create a holding company. I'm gonna raise money. I'm gonna have all these other companies. But that didn't all come in one phase. It happened over time. But I had to, like, look at my limitation. That was the obstacle. Is my limiting belief.
yeah. And I think another thing that when I was young, I read Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
When I was young, yeah. And when my first, well, no, not my first job, but, like, at one of my jobs in high school, because I was that person that I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I was gonna, I worked jobs and reinvested into myself, and that was, like, my whole thing. But I worked at a bookstore. And that was my thing. I worked at Barnes & Noble, and I would find all of these, like, books in self-development and self-help. And so I read Napoleon Hill at 16. So many other, like, self-development, mindset-oriented sort of books. Yeah, definitely Think and Grow Rich was an early one for me. Joseph Campbell, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, like, so that, and then a lot of books on spirituality. So
Joseph Campbell is the one who wrote talks about the hero's journey. That was one of our service packages called The Hero's Journey. We're all on this journey.
Yeah.
We're all on the hero's journey.
Yeah.
We're all in the game, but not everybody's playing it because they may be, stifled. Something may be blocking you from playing, but this is the game. And it's funny, now we're creating another world in the metaverse, even though I'm like, what is the metaverse? It's not even a thing. It's not even a real thing at this point. It's just it's a whole bunch of people creating games, and just because you can play it with a crypto coin is the metaverse. Like, but anyway, we're all in this, and it's like, and I can see people now. I'm like, I see where you're at in your game, and I
Yeah.
see the obstacle that you have to face to get to the next
You know what's
level.
interesting about the whole metaverse? Well, it's not even about like metaverse really, but I think what's interesting about it is that it is an expression of the fact that we can build the world that we want to live in.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to live in the metaverse, whether you want to live in this world,
Right.
understanding that you can actually craft it, you can build it, you can shape it. You could build this world in this physical reality, or you could go build a world in the metaverse. I think it's all like,
Or you can do both.
or you could do both.
Yeah.
Like that's and that's an exciting prospect for me. But when it comes to there was something that I mean, don't quote me on this, but I want to say Anais Nin, who is a French writer, said something, I'm paraphrasing, but I went to build my own world because essentially living in the world of others was too painful. It was too difficult. And that I remember, like, I wrote that down. I read that, wrote that down with a piece of paper, and I carried it with me. And that was my reminder of, okay, like, in this world, if something goes down, like, if something happens and it's traumatizing, because trauma happens, I would pull out that paper, and I'm drawing a blank a bit on the quote, but I would read it to myself and remember that, oh, I am in control. I can, to an extent, like I can build my world. I can start to curate the people that I want around me. I can start curating the things that I want to do, the music I want to listen to, the way that I want to feel is kind of based on how I create that and curate it. And so that was, I think, for me, how I was able to build this mindset is like, oh, well, you have this world that you want to live in, that you want to create. Here are these things that you need to do in order to get there. These are the pieces of the puzzle that you need to put together.
Right. Right. Again, here's the blueprint. Mm-hmm. What is that blueprint? And it's funny, it's the blueprint. Jay-Z, 2 albums called The Blueprint, some of his best work. And when you hear some of his conversations, he's saying the same things. He's like he said his uncle was like, "Well, you can't do that," and he was like, "Well, why not?" Like these limited perceptions. If he lived in his uncle's world, which is his mind of limiting belief, then he wouldn't be Jay-Z. So I can't live in other people's worlds and realities because what I believe I can do and what you think I can do is two different things. Mm-hmm. And if I live there with you, then I won't be able to be the full essence or the expression of who I really am, my God self. So that's what he's kind of saying, right? And I think back down to that thing when your mother created your own world, mm-hmm. your own reality. It doesn't matter down the street what was going on. You only see what's in front of you anyway.
Let me tell you, you only need 3 things to make anything a reality, whether you are making a piece of jewelry, whether you're building a business or building a world for yourself.
3 things. Okay, give us the blueprint.
You need vision.
Vision.
You need design.
Design.
And you need execution.
Execution.
That's it. Like vision is you need to be able to picture yourself, to visualize what it is that you want, right? Mm-hmm. You start there. And then designing is you start to put things into place. You start to organize the elements that are needed. Right? That's mm-hmm. you're designing, you're fashioning what it is that you just visualized, mm-hmm. right? Or envisioned. And then you go out and you execute. Those are the only 3 things that you need to make anything, any idea, anything a reality. Mm-hmm. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that's the exciting thing about Gildform is the fact that we're empowering people with the tools to make their vision a reality, and we do that with our technology and in our process, which connects those 3 things: vision, design, and execution. Everything about Gildform connects that. So that when you go there, now you have a platform where all of those things are aligned for you and that you're that much closer to making it a reality. What we ask our customers to come with, or creators to come with, is just vision. Just bring the vision, and we got you.
And that's the hard part, though, because it just bring the vision. Like,
you'll be surprised. Like, people have vision. They have the vision. What stops the vision is the designing and the execution. It's like, how am I going to fashion this? So usually, like, they'll have an idea and it stops because the prospect of building it is too scary, because they're like, wow, I got to navigate this whole, like, ancient jewelry manufacturing industry. Like, I'm about to do that. Or even, like, with fundraising, wow, I have to, like, get told no 100 times to get to one yes. Nah, I don't want to do that. Like, but I think that's the thing. People stop at the vision, and then they lose it, and then that's very true. Is everybody got vision, right? Like you said, it's everybody can see it, but what's the thing that stops you from even going to do it? Yeah, it's like either not having access to the tools and resources, and then also not knowing that tools and resources exist.
What's the other thing? What's the step before vision? Okay, here it is. We need a can-do spirit.
Yeah, intention. Like, you got to be intentional about it.
So let's put can-do spirit, belief in yourself, and that's add those three. And then let's close it off with resiliency.
And resilience. You got to keep doing it.
Because you can have those three and don't have resiliency to make it through. And that resiliency, you may need that in between steps 2, 3, 4 to this.
Yeah, I think, but that's also, resilience is like, these are like characteristics that are needed, right? Like, you need to be resilient in order to execute. Like, because you don't just execute or stop at executing at one.
Right.
You gonna go out and do it again because you just learned all of these things. You developed a muscle memory, so you're gonna go out and do it again, right? So execution is like, that is, for me at least, I feel like I'm going to be doing work forever. Like, I'm always going to be doing something. Yeah. So I'm never going to, like, execution never ends. And in order to execute, I think resiliency and, like, mindset, like, all of that is inside of that, too. And then having, like, in terms of vision, when it comes to, you know, having that can-do spirit, and then even, like, I mean, like, you have to have that. To have vision, you have to be like, even in that part, you got to be resilient. I think resilient and being resilient throughout this entire journey is important because you need that.
Did your therapy sessions and you're doing your inner work, how did that make you become more resilient, or how did that help you along the journey with things that were coming up? You know,
so my therapist would be like, you did the work. Like, I'd be like, thank you. Like, this was nice. And it would be like, you did that. And what I noticed was that for me, it was just reframing, like a lot of reframing the things that I would tell myself, like, or and what the things that I would say to myself, or things that I would think even, like, it was just reframing. Like, again, like an example is, did this happen to you or did it happen for you? Like, that's a quick reframe.
Right.
Right. And so that's, I think that was like the biggest thing for me, is just like reframing a lot of, and that's like deconditioning a lot of the things that, you know, I endured growing up and just living this life.
It's like, I know you're in Detroit, but oftentimes I don't feel like you're in Detroit because you so in the work. And I don't see you on social, is what I'm saying. But I don't even hear your name a lot. I'm like, she's over there doing something. But your name is known elsewhere too, from what you're doing. It's like, you don't have to be, and I'm saying that too because it's not like you have to be. You don't have to do the social thing. It'd be cool if you did, because that's going to add some more light. But at the same time, you're no more or less powerful. No, you're still doing your thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, we were rated a top app and top pick on Shopify, a global leader in e-commerce, right? Like, being able to be being the only platform that allows for creators to go from like design to online and e-commerce instantly, and be able to access things like drop shipping, like custom drop ship jewelry, which has never been done before. So like being able to be seen by a global leader like Shopify, Like that's I'm like, okay, like there we go. Like that's cool. And so it's like we're still like I'm definitely my focus has been like how do I align myself, the team, the business with the tools to be successful, you know, to align and reach their goals.
Right.
And while I'm quiet and like, you know, head down, like in Detroit, but not in Detroit, like doing it because I'm in my own world, we also partner with Curating that allows for businesses to access up to $50,000 in design and production financing right on the platform, you know? So being able to, again, bridge that gap, like, okay, you got an idea, and then now you got a product. How do you finance that, or how do you like fund that business? So being able to have that option right on the platform is like incredible. And then even to like the point where we recently launched the Creator Roadmaps last year. Creator Roadmaps, which allows for our creators to get a step-by-step roadmap on how to accomplish their goals, and it's all like personalized and generated using our technology that's also proprietary. So it's
their
like,
goals in creating jewelry or just period?
Yeah, for their jewelry line, right?
Okay, so thinking if a business comes in, say Inception wants to come in, we want to make our own products, and then you have the credit piece where we can scale, and then you have this other piece that helps you kind of guide the business along in the whole process. So you're creating a whole ecosphere for people to get in and kind of be handheld along the way with their own jewelry business. Is that more accurate?
100%. Yep. That's it. So at the time of the onboarding process, when brands are creating their accounts, they're going to answer some questions, and those questions are considering where they are, where they want to be.
Right.
And then so our technology from there will generate a personalized roadmap that gives them a step-by-step guide on how to get there. Like that is like game changing. It's a proven roadmap because I've done it. I've been there. And so you'll have a roadmap that's for you and your goals, and you'll be able to follow along and even get support throughout that journey from my team.
Now, I already know you're thinking about this, so I'm just going to say it to you, but I'm pretty sure you're like, yeah. But you can probably create your own almost like OpenSea platform and have people mint their own jewelry from your 3D design. Right. Yeah.
I like the way you think.
Yeah, well, I'm going to need to invest in that, okay? That's a good idea. Because I saw that one day and I was like, oh, man, she can get people to upload that, use that, mint that. I mean, obviously, it's technological back-end stuff that needs to happen. But for the most part, that's what you can do, you know, for their 3D avatars.
Yeah.
So what's the next steps with your company? Like, what's the next goals for you? What do you want to? What's the next step in the visionary process? I mean, you've come a long way, but where do you want to go next?
Getting closer to our creators and continuing to do our work with developing tools that make it easier and faster and more efficient to develop jewelry products from concept to creation. So that's our goal. Is like next steps for us is we're gonna keep doing it, keep getting closer. So we launched a partnership with Curating for financing and launched our Gildform print-on-demand Shopify app, which is top-rated in the Shopify App Store by the Shopify team. And, you know, we're just focused on just getting closer and providing more access to tools to be able to power jewelry products.
What's the response been from the creators?
Like, oh my God. Like what? Like, we have so many creators that are just like blown away when they find out about Gildform. They're like, what? And I mean, our traction in terms of scale, we're growing quite rapidly in terms of new creators that not only are jewelry designers, but like creators that aren't traditionally like jewelry companies, right? So like a CBD company is like, I want to start making jewelry, right? Yeah. Or like Inception, right? Could make jewelry. And so I am excited about being able to help business owners, brands, creators tap into this $330 billion opportunity.
330 billion. Yeah. Well, I said you're gonna get your slice of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a $1 billion company.
Yeah.
I just want a little piece.
We'll talk.
All right, guys. Until next time.
La la la.
You've been listening to the Inner Wealth Podcast on EYL.
Get out the matrix and live.
Theme song produced by Be Ready for West Coast Creations. I am Raz Cass, reminding you to take action, be proactive, be congruent, get out of the matrix, get your mind right. We've automated mental health at inception. Join the movement.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.